One of the things that Tom and I talk about a lot in the Bull City Wargaming Podcast, aside from Warhammer, is the board game Lords of Waterdeep. And it's really one of those things that's very difficult to explain to people, I think, via just audio. So I decided I would break out the game and try to do an explanation of how the game works and maybe a one-round synopsis with a video. So let's see if we can go through it. You'll see that it's a Dungeons & Dragons game, but that's really just kind of a license. It uses the Waterdeep, Dungeons & Dragons intellectual property, but it's more of a Euro game, which is to say that it involves a lot of resource gathering, not a lot of direct conflict, and the real fun of the game is can you gather the resources to maximize the things that you need while preventing others from doing so. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's in my top 3 games along with Chaos in the Old World and Battles of Westeros, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. So let's get to it. So here we have like the general board setup. You can see that the board itself is kind of a map of the city of Westeros, and on the edges there you can see each player's setup. So we'll go through that first. So this is player 1 in this game, and first thing you're going to do, you're going to have a assigned faction. This is pretty much just a color, and in this case it's the Silver Stars, which are the blue faction. And so you start the game with, depending on the number of players, 2 or 3 or 4 meeples, which are the little blue tokens up in the top right there, and those represent the men you are going to dispatch throughout the city of Waterdeep to gather resources and do quests for you, or get quests for you. So you can see that there. Below the blue meeples, you can see some gold tokens. They represent gold coins. In this case, because this player is player 1, he has 4 gold coins to start. And you can see a couple intrigue cards, which we'll talk about later, and his Lord card as well. So each player has a Lord card, and they get this. They're dealt this randomly in each game, and it represents one of the Lords of Waterdeep, one of the hidden rulers of the city of Waterdeep. And it's really just a hidden thing that you're going for. You see it, but the other players don't, and it's what's going to give you bonuses at the end of the game. So, for instance, this guy. Pirgaran, the Paladin's son? Sure. At the end of the game, he gets an extra 4 victory points for each piety quest and each warfare quest that the player completes. So we'll get into how that works, but you can tell that the player is going to want to accomplish more piety quests and more warfare quests. So these victory points we're talking to, if you look at the top left corner of this picture, you'll see a blue and a red token. And you'll see kind of a victory track running across from 1 to 100 around the entire edge of the board. And this is kind of the whole point of the game. This is how you win, is you want to move your token as far as you can, get as many victory points as you can. So blue represents that the blue player, who is player 1, and red is player 2. The main way that you're going to gain victory points is by accomplishing quests. And you can see 4 of the quests here. There are 4 quests out at the beginning of the game. There's a big stack of quests on the left. When a quest is completed, another quest from the stack replaces that quest. So, and you can see that each of these quests, if you look at the right side of the quest, each quest has a certain requirement, which is generally white, orange, black, and purple squares that you turn in, along with amount of gold you turn in. So, for instance, the squares represent different Dungeons & Dragons character classes. So, for instance, a white square represents a cleric, an orange square represents a fighter, a black square represents a rogue, and a purple square represents a thief. A wizard. So those are the quests, and they give out a certain amount of reward, and they often give out victory points, so they can give out anywhere from a couple to 25 victory points each, and occasionally they give out other rewards such as more gold, more squares, or certain conditions that'll come true throughout the game. And you can see these are the actual physical cubes that you give out during the game to help you keep track. You can see the gold coins there as well. It's a very well organized box of bits for playing the game. So here you can see the different parts of the city. So you're, I guess, trying to figure out where you get these squares. And so here we have, for instance, Blackstaff Tower. If you place a meeple there during your turn, you gain 1 purple square, or the Field of Triumph gains you 2 orange squares. In addition, you have the Cliffwatch Inn, and that's where you'll place your meeples in order to gain the quest cards. So those cues in the square up top near Cliffwatch Inn are the quest cards, which you have to get in order to solve the quests, along with the required squares and money you need to solve the quest. So you have to physically possess the quest to do it. So lower down on the board, you can see some other interesting places to go around the city. Castle Waterdeep is on the left there is a place you can send your meeple, and you'll gain the castle token, which allows you to start the next turn as the first player. It also gives you an intrigue card. We'll talk about those in a minute. The plinth gives you a white square, and Aurora's Realm Shops gives you 4 gold coins. Waterdeep Harbor allows you to play intrigue cards, and we'll get into that whole separate mechanic in just a sec. First, I want to talk about Builder's Hall. Builder's Hall is a place where you can place a meeple, and it allows you for a certain cost to purchase a building. So these Waterdeep Harbor and Aurora's Realm Shop and all these places where you're able to pick up squares are buildings on the map. Well, along the sides of the map, there's places where you can build new buildings, and there's a whole buildings deck full of random buildings you can build that pop up during the game. So, for instance, for 8 gold, you can purchase the Tower of Luck on the left, and if you place a meeple there, it gives you 1 white square and 2 black squares. So it's a much better building than the buildings that are already on the table. In addition, when a player builds that building, he becomes the owner of the building, and if another player uses that building, then the owner receives a bonus. So in this case, let's say player 2, the red player, builds the Tower of Luck. Well, if player 1, the blue player, uses the Tower of Luck later in the game, then the blue player, player 1, will gain a white square and 2 black squares, but player 2, the red player who owns the building, will be able to choose either a white square or a black square. So it's an advantage to build those buildings for, depending on your strategy. So let's talk about Waterdeep Harbor now. Waterdeep Harbor is actually a big building area. You can put up to 3 players there, and so blue player could place a player there, and then red player could place a player there. Red player could place another player there, and to spots 2 and 3. So as their turns go on. And what Waterdeep Harbor allows you to do is play intrigue cards. So intrigue cards are cards you have in your hand that allow you to do different weird kind of stuff throughout the game. So for instance, these are the 2 that are in the blue player's hands. He has Stamp Out Cultists, which is a mandatory quest, so that's a quest you can force onto another player. They generally have pretty low requirements and pretty low rewards, but you're required to do those mandatory quests before you can do anything else. So if the blue player gives the red player this mandatory quest, Stamp Out Cultists, red player's kind of stuck doing that quest before he can follow his own plans. The other intrigue card that the blue player has here is this special assignment, which allows him to choose a quest type and look through the quest deck of quests that aren't revealed yet, and until he finds that quest type, discard the other quests and choose that one of those quests that come to him. So finally, you have a round counter. That you can tell there are 8 rounds in this game, and on the 5th round, each player gains an additional agent, which just allows them to do more throughout the game. So I always find that games are a little confusing when you just explain the rules, but hopefully we'll play through a turn and See if that makes it a little more clear. So blue player goes first. In turn 1, he puts one of his meeples. He has 4 meeples in total. He puts one onto the Field of Triumph and gains 2 orange. So you can see he takes 2 orange squares out of the bank and he places them on his card. Red player immediately moves onto Builder's Hall and decides to buy a building. And being as Northgate is a 3 gold building, it's fairly cheap. Red player can buy that for 3 gold. So he started with 5 gold as the second player, and he pays 3 of them in, has 2 left. And he's able to place Northgate as his own building, which is now in play. And you can see they give you a little token, a little player-colored token, in order to mark who owns the building. So it's now in play. And a different building, now the Skulkway, comes into play and is now sitting in that middle slot available to buy. However, since there's only one Builder's Hall slot, only one building can be built every turn. And one of the interesting about buildings is they start the game with 1 victory point token on them, and then as the game turns go on, they gain additional victory point tokens. So basically, if no one wants to build a building, it'll gain in the victory points it gives for building the building until it becomes more desirable for a player to build it. So in this case, there was 1 victory point token on the building, and red player gains that 1 victory point. So blue player continues to gather resources, heads to the Grinning Lion Tavern, and gains 2 black rogue tokens. And you can see he puts that on his card from the bank. Red player heads to Aurora's Realm Shop, which gives him 4 gold, which go on to his bank. Blue player heads to the Plinth, gaining 1 white token, which, same old, goes to his bank. And then red player, now this is where it gets kind of interesting, red player heads to Waterdeep Harbor, and he is able at this point to play a intrigue card. Now the interesting other thing about Waterdeep Harbor, along with being able to play an intrigue card, is that the players that are in the slots in Waterdeep Harbor, once everyone has gone in their regular turns of putting their tokens down, these meeples, like this red meeple, is going to get to go again and go onto another slot. So red player has tax collection and a utility card, and so he can take 4 gold from the supply, the bank, and each opponent can choose to then pay him 4 gold and score 4 victory points. So in this case, red player, he's going to gain another 4 gold. He's getting pretty rich. But blue player, blue player only has 4 gold. He's going to hold off on paying that 4 gold for 4 victory points. He thinks he might have bigger fish to catch. So the tax collection card goes into the discard pile. And okay, so blue player goes to Waterdeep Harbor in his turn. I think I forgot to snap a picture of the actual token in the 2 slot, but heads to Waterdeep Harbor. And he's got this special assignment card, and this allows him to draw through the cards and choose a quest from a type he wants. So the quests have Arcana quests, Commerce quests, Piety quests, and Skullduggery or Warfare quests. And so, remember when we went over the Lord that blue player had before, he gets bonuses for doing Piety and Warfare quests. He chooses the Piety quest subtype and heads through our type and heads into the deck looking for the Piety quest. So he finds the Piety quest, and this one looks really good for him. He needs 2 whites and an orange, as well as 2 gold to turn in, and this gives him 8 victory points. In addition, it remains kind of in play where it'll help, and whenever the blue player completes a Piety quest, he's going to score an additional 2 victory points in the future. This is a really excellent card for the blue player, because not only is he going to get bonuses at the end of the game from his Lord for doing those Piety quests, he's going to get bonuses during the game for doing Piety quests as well. So this is a great card for him. So red player then can head to Castle Waterdeep, and he gains another intrigue card. Also gets this white castle token, and that means when the next round starts, the red player is going to go first. And then because red player has a card in Waterdeep Harbor, and the turn's over and he's in that one slot, he can use his own building and go to Northgate. Now he's not going to get that owner bonus at the bottom, because that's when other people use your building, but he is going to get to 2 more gold and randomly choose he's going to get to choose whatever color square he likes as well. So he takes a purple square and a couple more gold. He's really running the gold game. And since blue player was the second player at Waterdeep Harbor, he heads to the Cliffwatch Inn, and here he can pick up a quest card and 2 gold coins, and he can pick up this commerce quest, send aid to the Harpers. He gets to pick one, but looking at his resources, he sees he can do this send aid to the Harper quest, and it requires a white square, an orange square, and a black square, and 4 gold. It rewards 15 victory points, so he goes flying past the red player on the victory track, but he has to choose an opponent to gain 4 gold. In this case, since there's only 2 players, he's going to give red player 4 gold, which is really helping red player build that bank up. So these are the 4 gold and orange, white, and black squares, and blue player will pay those into the bank, and then 4 more gold for the red player, which he's rolling in it now. Immediately another quest goes into the blank spot where that send aid to the Harper's quest was, and so now there's a new quest there for the taking. So you go ahead and so now that no players can move around the town anymore, they're out of men to move around, little meeples to move around. Each of the buildings gains a victory point that it gives away when built. So the Tower of Luck and the Dragon Tower each have 2 victory points associated with them now. You can see the turn counter moves to turn 2, and all the little meeples are pulled off and put back into the tavern, where they can go out for round 2. You can see the finished send aid to the Harper's quest is now at the bottom of the tavern, face down. And and then you just go again, you keep going and going. The fun of the game is trying to gather the resources that you need while blocking other players from getting what they want, and kind of playing that you have that Lord of Waterdeep, which is giving you those bonuses. Other players don't know about that, so you're trying to be subtle and get the quests you need done in order to get the bonuses and get as far around the track as possible. The player who has the highest score on that track at the end of the game wins. So anyway, I hope that was a at least semi-coherent explanation of how to play Lords of Waterdeep. It's a ton of fun, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed the explanation. So see you next time for probably a battle report.